Firstpost reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alison LaGrange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global south. Join me every weekday live on Firstpost. Hello and welcome to Firstpost Africa, where we get you the top stories from the continent and from across the world. I'm Alison LaGrange, coming to you live from Durban, South Africa. First, let's take a look at the headlines. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warns Lebanese people of Gaza-like destruction and suffering as his country's military expands offensive against Hezbollah. Russian authorities declare a state of emergency in the Bryansk district, where Ukraine claims to have struck a depot storing North Korean ammunition. US President Joe Biden asks Florida residents to flee Hurricane Milton, warning that the Category 5 storm could turn into the worst natural disaster to hit the state in a century. North Korea's army says it is moving to permanently shut off and block the border with South Korea, severing the road and railway access between the two regional rivals. And Southeast Asian leaders urge Myanmar junta and its opponents to take concrete action to stop the bloodshed in the country's civil war as leaders of the ASEAN bloc meet in Laos. Hello and welcome. We begin with the major political drama unfolding in Kenya. An impeachment campaign against President William Ruto's deputy is gaining momentum. Kenya, for the very first time, could see a deputy president being impeached. Now, this comes amidst tensions within Kenya's ruling party. A rift between President Ruto and his deputy, Rigathi Gachagua, this is now out in the open. And it further accentuates the political tensions in the East African nation that erupted after the recent deadly anti-government protests. Kenyan Senate, which is the upper house of parliament, has begun proceedings on the impeachment motion against the deputy president. Fast-tracking the process, the matter was forwarded to the Senate just a day after Kenya's National Assembly, which is the lower house, in a historic move, overwhelmingly voted in favour of the impeachment motion. High drama unfolded in the National Assembly yesterday. Inside Parliament, lawmakers engaged in a heated argument over the bid to oust the deputy president. These discussions were almost a day long. Now, outside the Parliament, cannons and tear gas. This, as in the past few days, there have been clashes between Ruto and his deputy's supporters. Now, Ruto's allies approved the impeachment motion with a majority vote. 282 MPs in the 349-member National Assembly voted in favour, way ahead of the two-thirds required. For the votes, there were 44 votes against and 1 abstention. Now, the impeachment motion accuses the deputy president of 11 charges, including insubordination, undermining the government, practising ethnically divisive politics, and also being involved in the recent anti-government protests, which turned out to be a major challenge for the Ruto administration.
Order, members, order. Members, the results of the division on the motion are as follows. Abstentions, 1. The noes 44. The ayes 281. So the ayes have it.
The Deputy President was also present in Parliament. He defended himself against the several charges. He denied any wrongdoing and said he will not back down and will fight to the end.
I have no intention whatsoever to resign from this job. I'll fight to the end. I have tremendous respect for our judiciary and the professional judges of the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court. And in the professional manner, they have handled serious issues affecting Kenya.
While Ruto has not yet commented publicly on the impeachment proceedings, it is believed the impeachment bid is a culmination of the fallout with his deputy. 59-year-old Gachaguahas was handpicked by Ruto in 2022 after his win. He had weathered corruption scandals and links to the country's former authoritarian to secure the country's second top job. Now, Gachaguahas had belonged to a vote-rich Mount Kenya region, and his campaign helped Ruto to gain significant votes to win the presidential election. But in recent weeks, he has complained of being politically sidelined. He has also been absent from accompanying his boss when he travels abroad or returns. So what has changed now? Now, seemingly everything is rooted in Kenya's recent anti-government protests that started against the proposed tax hikes but snowballed into a larger campaign against Ruto. At least 50 people died in the protests, and the authorities were accused of mishandling the protesters. Ruto had to take some major steps to appease the public in the aftermath, like completely scrapping the financial bill and sacking his entire cabinet. Ruto appointed some opposition members in his new government, and that has reportedly shifted attention from the deputy. Gachaguahas says that he is now isolated. Gachaguahas is also accused of being involved in the protests. Last month, many lawmakers allied with the deputy president were summoned by police on accusations of funding the protests. Now, the motion against Gachaguahas also lists accusations that he amassed assets worth $40 million in 2 years, even as he had an annual salary of $93,000. But Gachaguahas, who was a former businessman, says that all his assets are legitimate. As per reports, Kenya's Interior Minister, Kindiki, is now being assigned some of the Deputy President's duties. The Interior Minister also hails from Mount Kenya and could be Ruto's next point man in the vote-rich region. Now, the Senate, meanwhile, has 10 days to wrap up the proceedings and to make a decision on the motion. It will debate on the matter next week. If they vote in favour, what implications could it have on Kenyan politics? And what really has triggered Kenyan lawmakers to launch this unprecedented impeachment motion? Now, in Mozambique, the voting is currently underway to elect the successor of President Filipe Nyusi after the end of his 2 consecutive presidential terms. The East African country is also voting to elect members of parliament and provincial governors. Close to 17 million voters are registered to vote for the next president. The ruling Frelimo party looks almost certain to extend its 50-year grip on power, despite reports claiming that fake voter rolls may decisively impact the final results. The ruling Frelimo party's role is widely acknowledged in Mozambique's freedom from Portugal in 1975. The party has ruled Mozambique ever since. It fought a 15-year bloody civil war against various rebel groups and won the first democratic election in 1994. The Frelimo party has been accused of falsifying past election results by various international observers.
Another thing, we are already been ruled for 50 years by the same party, and it has never produced a single kilogram for flour to make bread. But we have enough land and natural resources capable of growing wheat.
For the first time, the ruling Frelimo party has fielded a presidential candidate born after Mozambique's independence from Portugal. The 47-year-old Daniel Chapo of the Frelimo party previously worked as a TV and radio presenter. He entered politics in 2009 as a district administrator and most recently served as governor of Mozambique's Inhambane province. Now, Chapo is up against Venancio Mondlane, an independent candidate who has drawn large crowds in his political rallies under the slogan, "Save Mozambique, this country is ours." Now, the other candidates include Osufo Mamare of Mozambique's main opposition party, Renamo, and Lutero Simango of Mozambique Democratic Movement. Now let's take a look at the key issues in Mozambique as it chooses its next president. Mozambique has been fighting an Islamic State-affiliated insurgency in the country's north that has led to a large-scale displacement of several communities. The rehabilitation of these communities remains a key election issue. The country also faces high levels of unemployment and hunger. Now, most recently, due to drought in the country's southern and central regions, Mozambique is the world's 8th poorest country with a GDP per capita of just $608. Despite being rich in natural resources such as coal, rubies, and gas. Now, the leading candidates have promised the revival of a $20 billion gas project that has been halted due to insurgency in the country's north.
Safety and security is a right for every Mozambican. When we talk about a nation based on safety, we assume that the life protection in our territory for the liberty and property will be a priority in our governance. That means that the public policies must be directed not only for maintaining order, but for promoting social justice.
I would like to see the country with more job opportunities. As we know, there are lack of opportunities in this country. There is no employment for youth.
The counting of votes is scheduled to begin as soon as the voting is over. The official results will be announced by National Election Commission after 15 days. The elections in Mozambique remain a test of the country's democratic credentials. But from food shortage to counterinsurgency, will the next president rescue Mozambique from these host of challenges? Last month, while the world had its eyes on the all-important United Nations General Assembly to see what global leaders had to say on matters of geopolitical importance, especially on conflicts in Europe and West Asia, Cameroonians were looking for something else. Their president, who was expected at the United Nations but did not turn up. Then again, over the weekend, when the French-speaking countries gathered in Paris for a summit, Cameroonians were once again searching for their missing-in-action president. The absence of Cameroon's 91-year-old president, Paul Biya, from two important public events sparked rumors on social media that something was wrong with him. While some said that the government was hiding facts about their often absent president, others were quick to comment that he was dead. Now, some even went a step further to claim that France, one of Cameroon's former colonizers, was trying to install Biya's oldest son, Frank Biya, as his successor. But has the nonagenarian president really gone missing? And when was he last seen? The Central African country's president was last seen in public at a China-Africa forum in Beijing in early September. Local media reports claim that Biya took a private trip to Switzerland to take rest after his diplomatic visit to China. Now, Biya's health was a major reason for him to be absent from the two public events. Reports further claim that after his trips to Paris for the opening of the Olympic Games and to Beijing, that the president showed signs of fatigue, prompting his doctors to advise rest. But no official statements were made at the time, allowing for speculations to grow. Now, Biya, who is Africa's second longest-serving leader, had been expected to return to Cameroon in mid-September after his visit to China. Preparations for his arrival had also been made, but they were later cancelled after his medical team advised him to remain in Switzerland, where President Biya regularly undergoes medical care and takes extended periods of rest. Well, now this raises the question on whether a president can stay out of Cameroon this long. While there is no legal limit on the duration of presidential stay abroad, public discourse suggests that around 40 days is an acceptable time frame for being away from Cameroon. It is believed that several public events and meetings have been cancelled in the past few days to make the president's schedule lighter. This also included the Hamburg Sustainability Conference that was held from the 7th to the 8th of October. But has the Cameroonian government responded to the rumours? Yes, it has indeed. They have called these rumours and reports as purely fantasy. Now, the government has said that the 91-year-old president was in good health and would return to the Central African country in a few days. Now, President Biya, who has been in power since 1982 in Cameroon, has been known to have taken many extended stays abroad. These stays have led to circulation of rumours of his death, but eventually have been quashed after he dramatically made an appearance at the last minute. With no clear succession plan in place, Biya's death would bring more political turmoil to West and Central Africa, which has seen 8 military coups since 2020. President Biya is the only leader that most Cameroonians know. To contextualize, the cocoa and oil-producing Cameroon has had just 2 presidents since its independence from France and Britain in the early 1960s. It is currently in the grips of a successionist war that has killed thousands, while at the same time grappling with violent Boko Haram insurgency in the north. Despite human rights groups accusing him of intimidating opponents to strengthen his grips on political power, several leaders have called on President Biya to seek another term in the 2025 presidential election. As speculative fire on the president's condition continues to burn, one would be eagerly awaiting a glance of the head of state in public in the coming days. Now, whether he stands for another term or not is yet to be seen. And finally, to our special segment, Resurgent Africa. Amid the coups and the crises, there are many positive stories from Africa that often get overlooked, but not on this show. Severe drought and the depleting groundwater has forced people of Western Morocco to turn to the Atlantic Ocean for survival. In the small village of Bedoza, mobile desalination stations called monoblocks convert seawater into drinkable water, providing a lifeline to thousands. 44 stations have been established so far, serving nearly 45,000 people. Our report gets you all the details.
In the dusty villages of western Morocco, hope has become as scarce as water. The parched earth cracks beneath the feet of people who are wandering the streets, clutching empty buckets. Their eyes scan the horizon in vain. No clouds, no relief. Just the relentless glare of the sun and the harsh reality of drought. In the fishing village of Beduza, survival has taken on a new meaning. The proverb, necessity is the mother of invention, rings truer than ever here. Faced with the devastation of their land and the absence of groundwater, the people of Beduza have turned to the unthinkable, the Atlantic Ocean. Thanks to innovation and desperation, the salty waves that lap at their shores are no longer just a reminder of what they can't drink. Instead, they represent a lifeline. Through mobile desalination stations, small compact units known as monoblocks, the salty ocean water is slowly being transformed into drinkable water.
We have had water from Bedusa for 35 years, but for the past 3 or 4 months, The water supply has decreased in our region and in the city of Safi. However, with the seawater desalination process, we have started benefiting from water delivered by tanker trucks. Thank God, things are going well today.
Since 2023, Morocco has installed 44 of these portable desalination units. While they can't restore the once fertile lands or replenish the rivers, they do quench the thirst of thousands. These stations have become a beacon of hope in a landscape where desperation was once the only constant. The monoblocks are delivering water not just to Baduza, but to the remote corners of the country where drought has tightened its grip like never before. The groundwater is gone, the wells are dry, and the only respite comes in the form of tanker trucks delivering the desalinated water. For the residents who receive this liquid salvation, these trucks are nothing short of a miracle.
The three plants are located in the province of Safi, specifically in the communes of Badusa, Yir, and Machate. They have a combined daily capacity of 1,800 cubic meters per day, which practically covers the needs of 45,000 residents across all the rural areas of these three communes.
Morocco's authorities are doing what they can, but with the country on the brink of environmental collapse, plans are underway to build 219 additional desalination stations. The situation in rural Morocco is dire. Water levels in the dams have plummeted and underground reservoirs have been exhausted. Nearly 3 million people are in urgent need of drinking water, and the crisis shows no signs of abating. The World Resources Institute warns that by 2040, Morocco could face extremely high water stress, exacerbated by a projected 11% drop in rainfall and rising temperatures. Already, the country's vital agricultural sector, which employs about a third of its working population, is under threat. Official figures suggest that the area under cultivation is shrinking. From 3.7 million hectares in 2023, it's now an estimated 2.5 million hectares in 2024. The land, once bountiful, is withering under the heat of climate change. For now, the waves of the Atlantic continue to offer hope. But will they be enough to save a nation on the edge of drought-induced disaster? Morocco's future hangs in the balance. With the promise of more desalination stations as a fragile thread keeping thirst at bay, the question is not just whether Morocco can endure this crisis, but whether the world is ready to confront the growing threat of water scarcity before it's too late.
And that's it on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Hello and welcome to Fast and Factual. My name is Utsaf Parekh and here are the top stories of the day. Israel is expanding its ground operation in Lebanon. The Israeli Defense Forces sent out their 146th Division overnight. That means that about 15,000 Israeli troops are now operating in Lebanese territory. Israel launched a series of strikes in the southern region of Lebanon's capital, Beirut. The attacks razed 4 buildings. Israeli forces launched the attack after warning residents to evacuate.